Welcome to the Victors Nation podcast. I am your host, Jason Robinson. We are brought to you by Big Banter Sports. Make sure you follow them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and visit us at bigbantersports.com to get your sports news involving Big Ten football. Joining me is another fan of America's team. Dre is absent tonight. Derek, 1,000th win. How you feeling, man?
A win's a win. It was not a pretty win. Anyone that was on social media probably felt the same way. But a win's a win. Undefeated, first to 1,000.
It is
winningest program in college football history.
Yeah, it's about to be 1,001 this coming Saturday as well too. And Buckeye fans, you might have another excuse this weekend. The weather might be pretty bad, so you can blame that again. Good luck.
That's what they're looking for. They're looking for as many asterisks as they can get, as many excuses as they can get for what's happening.
I love it. Love it.
Absolutely. Well, Dre, hopefully Dre might be able to hop on here at some point in time while we're going with this pod. Seems like he might be having some technological issues getting logged in with us here. So we'll get going without him. But to get things started, crazy that we are already coming up on the game. Crazy that we've gone through the season and it has been for us, for the Michigan fan base, a pretty wild ride, starting with Burgergate before the season started to then the Sign Gate, Connor Stallions, and the what appears to be a clearly targeted anti-Jim Harbaugh campaign by the NCAA, the Big Ten, and some of the major media networks out there. So just a few quick thoughts on where we're at right now with the Jim Harbaugh situation. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think we can all agree that it's probably been a little exhausting, but the national media certainly is not going to let up. They're going to keep their narrative going. So the only people that are able right now to spin a pro-Michigan, pro-Jim Harbaugh narrative is going to be Michigan fans. I think that what is alleged, because it hasn't until it comes out that somebody confirms that was Connor Stallions at the Central Michigan game on the Central Michigan sidelines, which if it does, I don't think that it was on Michigan's behalf that he was there. I think that
pretty obvious.
I don't think that Michigan's like, hey, Connor, go throw some sunglasses on, grow a goatee, and come back and let us know what one of the worst teams in the Big Ten is doing against Central Michigan. I do not think that was the case, but until that comes out, I don't even know that there's a clear rule violation that took place, because the rule that is being alluded to is advanced in-person scouting. And I don't think, at least from what's been made public, nothing shows advanced in-person scouting by a staff member of Michigan so far. So blame the NCAA for having vague rules, but they're going to do whatever it takes to get Jim Harbaugh out, is what I feel like. I feel like this is not as much about Michigan. I don't think that there's ever going to be anything on the table to vacate wins, which is the stupidest punishment that the NCAA could ever do, because we all know what happened. We all know that who we beat, how bad we beat them by. So I think that the NCAA and the Big Ten and the national media wants Jim Harbaugh out because he has been an advocate of the players getting a revenue share, and he's not backing down. Jim Harbaugh's not somebody that's going to back down. And every single thing that has come his way has been completely unprecedented, completely nothing that the NCAA or the Big Ten has ever acted on before. The NCAA hasn't even acted on anything, except for maybe expediting the investigation a little bit. And what it sounds like with the most recent firing of Chris Partridge is he was not in, at least my understanding. I think we got to wait probably a long time for any of this information to come out. I know that there's rumors about destroying evidence and stuff, but I don't know how much truth there is to that. It sounds like what happened is he didn't cooperate the way that he was supposed to with the investigation. And that's why the NCAA put more pressure on Michigan. And that's why they ended up dropping the fight, because they didn't feel like if there was something against a second staff member that they would be able to win in court to get this suspension overturned at this point in time. So we're going to have a lot more to wait out and see. And it just seems to be that, and all of this has come about every single time when a contract extension has been on the table. Every single time. Burgergate, the sign gate, the way that the heat gets turned up every single time that it sounds like Michigan's about ready to get Harbaugh to sign his contract extension. More comes out. Somebody pushes harder. More articles get released. More people on ESPN come out and say that Michigan should be banned from the college football playoff. Right? So certainly been frustrating from a fan's perspective. Certainly has to be frustrating from the player perspective. I don't know. Any thoughts that you have, Jason?
This team is built well. They've handled these distractions very, very well, more than I thought. So props to them. That's that culture as well too, and that's coaching. But it's these individual players as well too, like coming together as a team, using this as fuel. I feel like there's something like every year, like Michigan did something like blah 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 blah. But if other teams are going to use excuses, and so Ohio State's really good at this, but if they're going to use excuses of why we beat them the last 2 years, and other teams as well too, for sign stealing, when the NCAA said in 2021 this wouldn't even impact a game positively for the team that stole the signs. So that's just them talking. So, I mean, you could keep chirping, and all those other rivals and other teams' fans could keep chirping about this as well too. But it's complete and utter BS, basically. It's the product on the field. It is the product on the field, and it's what we've built. So you can keep telling yourself, this is why Michigan turned good, because of sign stealing. Pretty sure you guys had our signs too, so that's not even a rumor. Other teams had our spreadsheet. Ohio State, Rutgers, Illinois, I believe 2 other schools as well too. And then there's that other thing too, that, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, Derek, that basically that Ohio State and Purdue gave this spreadsheet, or Ohio State and Rutgers gave this spreadsheet to Purdue before the Big Ten championship game. Is that not
Right.
advanced sign stealing?
Right.
Is that not? So you can keep crying all you want, other fans. We're just going to keep laughing at you and pretty much beating your ass.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like outside of the Big Ten, a lot of people are probably laughing at all of us. That this has blown up into
this is some
such
grade
a big
school
deal.
drama right here, basically.
Right.
It's pathetic. Really
and
is.
the absolute, I think, dumbest argument that has been made so Michigan State made this, and then the Big Ten made this in their letter, that it somehow impacts player safety. If there is any form that sign stealing in any way would impact player safety, then the NCAA should be up for a ton of lawsuits, because guess what? They're the ones that keep it legal. They're the ones that make sign stealing legal. So you can't tell me that one method versus another impacts player safety and the other one doesn't. You can't tell me that if if the allegations of advanced scout, if Connor Stallions was even able to get good videos that he was able to connect and have this plan where he was able to decode our opponent's signs, you cannot tell me that that presents more of an issue of player safety than Purdue receiving all of Michigan's offensive signs from one school and all of Michigan's defensive signs from another school the week of the game, and not having to do any work to decode them.
Other fans of those schools and those coaches, they can keep denying it, but it's out there.
Right.
This is
and
actually
you know what?
hard evidence. So you guys are,
right.
Like I said, you guys are full of shit. You guys are full of shit if you guys don't think you did this as well too. Because yes, the way Connor did it, it's messed. It's a little weird, right? It's how we did it. It's a little weird. That's why it's blowing up. But the fact that you did it too a different way, maybe more leniently, didn't go out of your way to do it. I mean, if there was a spreadsheet or whatever, a shared spreadsheet, I don't care what he said. It's out there. You guys are just as guilty in that form of advanced sign stealing as well too. And Derek, you have a good point too. Like with sign stealing, you still need to know what hole to hit. You'll still need to make a play as well too. You don't know where the ball is going all the time. So if you think that gave Michigan a competitive edge to win this game, and it's not because we're talented, and it's not because we can develop players, we're just pretty much going to keep laughing at you because this is hilarious. This is comical right now that you guys think this. Again, excusism. It's a disease. I feel bad for those people. Unfortunately, there's no cure. Sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? We're where we're at. No Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines, but we got Jim Harbaugh coaching all week up to the game. So it's going to be on Sharon Moore, and even more than that. This is a game that it's going to be. The X's and O's will help, but the Jimmies and Joes are going to be the ones that win the game. It's going to be the guys on the field. Ohio State knew what we were doing.
Going to be developed in there as well too.
Yeah. So don't want to continue to beat a dead horse with the Jim Harbaugh situation. One final thought on that though is, be loud about your thoughts on it. National media is not going to be very loud in a positive format for Michigan or Jim Harbaugh. So be loud. More information that comes out about the PI firm that was hired to investigate Michigan in the first place. Be loud about that information when it comes out. Be loud to, especially when we win this week. Be loud. So this whole situation, it frustrating as a fan. Guarantee it's frustrating for the players. Guarantee it's frustrating for the coaches. But to get through it all, we're undefeated going into the game. So, Jason, let's recap. Not only this past week. Let's recap the season up until this point, which has been a wild ride. But this past weekend was the first game of the season that we were challenged to the end of the game. The first game of the season. And that seems to be a trend the week before the game. Last year, we had the same thing against Illinois.
17 against Illinois, and it came down to like a kick.
It came down to Jake Moody. Yeah.
Yeah. That was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough.
So,
but like I said too, in a previous pod, I mean, like we might need a game like this, and I think Corum kind of said the same thing too, that we maybe needed a game like this as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your thoughts on the season as it's been?
Besides all the drama, I mean, mention again, I mean, it's been like you said, a wild ride. It's been crazy, but the fact that this team has kind of used this as fuel, shut down the distractions, played their game essentially. You're right. I mean, this past Saturday here against Maryland, it was a challenge for sure. We had a 23-3 lead. At zone coverage or certain players, I mean, we're kind of getting beat on some plays as well too. But Maryland, I mean, they do have a solid team. I don't even want to talk about the tush push. I just don't. that just is just frustrating to me. And I'm not saying it should be illegal either. I mean, it's a part of the game, right? It's a part of the game. So props to Maryland to using that and for their advantage. I mean, maybe we should start looking into some of those as well too. But it was a tough fought game. And Derek, you talked about last year's game against Illinois, 19-17. It was a tough game as well too. I don't really think they had the game in their heads at that point, but you can't tell me at least maybe 1% of them, maybe each individual player thought about next week, the last couple of seasons. But that being said, it was a challenging game. Mikey made some hell of a plays, dude. Like 2 interceptions. I believe he's on top of the Big Ten right now. I think tied actually with 5 interceptions in the Big Ten right now on top of that leaderboard in that group. But we played good. I mean, I mean, the score doesn't show it, but man, our defense, that stretch, I mean, we are getting to their quarterback.
Yeah.
Got him to fumble, picked it up for a touchdown. Moore did. That was awesome. It was just a tough game. It was just a really tough game, but we were up to the challenge and we got our 1,000th win in program history.
Yeah.
But overall, throughout the season, it's like I said it before, and I'll say it again. Like when Jim is not there on the sideline, it just seems like sometimes a fire gets taken out. We lose a little bit of fuel going into the game, and it is what it is. JJ, he didn't make the greatest throws in that game as well too, but maybe he needed a game as like similar. I don't want to say similar to Bowling Green, but close to it, right? They weren't accurate, but I mean, still, I think the best quarterback in college football right now too. And I think we needed this game to come back down to earth a little bit. And we got a big game next week, and I think this is going to help a little bit.
Yeah, and you know, I played a lot of football through my life, and it's really easy to let off the gas, and then once you do, it's really hard to get back on the gas. And when that game was 23-3, I think that some mindsets started. Nobody will admit to this. Nobody admits to this in the moment. None of the coaches will admit to this. None of the players will admit to this. But I think the mindset started to shift to, we've got a blowout on our hands. Let's get out of the game early and get on to Ohio State.
Out too.
And then a couple of mistakes, and Maryland's a good team. Maryland's a team that's this close to being a really tough program. There are a couple mistakes here and there, and we saw those couple mistakes here and there come out to benefit us, right? And intentional grounding in the end zone, which, by the way, I see quarterbacks get away with that all the time. I was absolutely floored that got called.
People are going to talk. I was too, but literally the ball was like 10, like maybe around 10 yards away from him. Yeah. It was intentional grounding, but they could have. Honestly, it was a judgment call. They could have called it both ways. Yeah. They could have.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that. But but I mean that we had them backed up anyways. I don't think the way our defense was playing right then, I don't know that that Maryland was going to really get anywhere.
I thought we were looking at like a 42-3 game. I mean, block punt too. Right after that, I mean, it was. Yeah. It was crazy. That game alone was just a wild ride.
It was, and you talked. JJ threw some darts in that game. And there were some passes that were off the mark just a bit, but I think that the one that sticks out was the deep ball to CJ, right? That was the play that really sticks out as like the big miss that kind of would have been a dagger if we hit it. And I think that that's one of those plays that both players get back to the huddle and are pointing to themselves because CJ flattened that route out. and JJ was throwing it a little bit deeper to hit the hash a little bit deeper, and CJ was late getting his head turned around to spot the ball, and it was a little behind him, and both players CJ probably could have got his head turned around a little quicker. He probably could have.
Same route. It was the same route that he ran against Ohio State too,
and got open,
and burnt him, but just didn't connect this time. But don't worry, we will this weekend.
We won, and coming out of that game too, I thought our D line played really well. Like that was, I thought that was the best that our pass rush looked all year. Our secondary on the flip side had a few lapses, and I think that is only going to be a good thing conceptually on offense. Maryland has a lot of concepts that they run that are similar to Ohio State, so being able to get some of those things on film and correct them going into play, a similar type offense will be beneficial for Michigan. So, I think it was like I said, it ended up being, it looked like it was going to be a blowout, ended up being an ugly game, but we won, and that's all that matters. So now
we also predicted it to be a trap game as well too. I mean, in the beginning, it's like, okay, maybe it's not going to be like that, but it turned out that way a little bit.
Yeah,
and this definitely shifted.
And this whole season to go until the second to last game of the season without giving up a single point in the third quarter. I think Maryland was Penn State must have had first and goal on Michigan last week, but
in the red zone, I believe so. Yeah. And then Maryland put up 14 points in the third quarter.
Yeah. So I mean, we have absolutely dominated pretty much every game this year. Penn State ended up being a close game that, honestly, I think if Harbaugh's coaching that game, I think we win by several scores against Penn State. Same thing this past week with Maryland. I think if Harbaugh's on the sideline, and what you were talking about with like the fire and the energy, it just seems to be up a little bit. I think that just has to do with the division of powers. I think that when Harbaugh's coaching as the head coach, he gets to manage the entire game. Sharon Moore gets to run the offense and coach the offensive line. And when Harbaugh's not there, Sharon Moore is trying to coach the offensive line, be the offensive coordinator, and be the head coach and manage the entire game. I think that's where we've looked out of sync a couple times without Jim Harbaugh. I think that it's not really getting into the same type of rhythm. It seems like there's been a completely different rhythm of offensive play calling with Sharon Moore when he is head coaching duties versus when he doesn't have head coaching duties. And I think it's just a lot on somebody's plate. Also, he is still learning. He's learning how to be a head coach on the fly, unexpectedly, while he still has offensive coordinator duties and is the offensive line coach. So that's a lot. I know a lot of people were frustrated with play calling, and this past game, you talked about the tush push. Man, why don't we have a short yardage package with Orgy, where we do the brotherly shove, where we do the tush push? Who is going to stop that? Like,
I want Orgy back there for sure. I've been saying all year, I want Orgy to play more.
Right.
But put Kenneth Grant in there. Put Kenneth Grant in that situation as well, too.
3rd and 1, 4th and 1. The coaches for Michigan and the coaches in college football and the coaches in the NFL are certainly smarter than me when it comes to football. But I absolutely do not understand in short yardage situations going shotgun. And that's what I thought we got a pretty favorable spot on that last 4th and 1 that we went for.
Yeah.
But when you go shotgun, you give the linebackers you give the second level a chance to shoot their gaps. I feel like if we had a short yardage package,
maybe JJ is more comfortable in that situation as well too. I don't know.
Maybe, but that's what I'm saying.
It's a question that really hasn't been asked yet, or will be asked. I don't know.
it's not just Michigan that does it. Like you see it in college football all the time. You see it in the NFL all the time. But like Michigan had almost no chance of stopping the backup quarterback from Maryland coming in and doing the tush push. Like they could have, when they got to the 1 yard line, they could just ran that play over and over again. Eventually they were going to get in. I think that it would be a great use of Alex Orji to have packages like that for him to come in, because it's almost impossible to stop. Like with our interior offensive line, Trevor Keegan, Zach Zinter, and Drake Nugent, man, throw two tight ends and Donovan Edwards behind Alex Orji to give that extra push. Who's going to stop that 1 yard in college football? I don't think anybody.
I mean, we had a few injuries in that game too, so hopefully Hinton's all right, and Mikey B came back in the game, so I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah,
we'll see.
And all
gotta get healthy quick.
Yeah, all things considered too. I think that Sharon Moore has the team, right? So say what you want about the play calling the last 2 weeks. I have no issues with what we did against Penn State, because we went into one of the toughest environments in college football and against the best rush defense at the time in Power 5, and we just smashed them and smashed them and smashed them and smashed them and won. This past week, like I said, I think everyone thought that game was going to end up being a blowout, and it's hard to get back on the gas if you pull off the gas a little bit. That's one of the toughest things to do in a game. But I think that the one thing that he has is the culture in this team. I think that this team, for any of their coaches, but for Sharon Moore especially, in the absence of Jim Harbaugh, I think that this team will go out and give every single thing that they have. And that's what I think we're going to see next week. I think regardless of what the outcome is, what you're going to see is you're going to see this team go out and just give every single thing that they have on every single play. And I think that that's because the team absolutely loves Sharon Moore. And you can tell at the end of the games, you can tell with all how he celebrates with the players, the hugs, the I love yous, we know from talking to some of the families what they feel about this coaching staff and about Coach Harbaugh and Coach Moore. So, I think that to get to where we're at through everything, undefeated, only tested once this year. Who cares what the rankings are? Who cares what the AP poll says? Who cares what the college football playoff rankings say? So now we're to a 1 week season, and I'm pretty excited for it. But what do you think? Looking back on the season to this point, offensively, defensively, who are some of the stars that you look to in your eyes that have really impacted the season that we've seen so far?
I mean, we talked about it all year. It's kind of hard to even pick stars. I mean, none of these players really care about individual stats or awards, anything like that. I mean, this is just a team atmosphere, very team culture as well too. But as far as offensively, we haven't seen too many passes the last few games, but I mean, JJ's put up those numbers for sure. Screw his mistakes. I mean, this guy is an elite quarterback. I think one of the, or if not the best college football quarterback in the nation. Got to give props to Roman Wilson as well too. But Blake Corum, wow, 20 touchdowns on the year, almost up to 900 rushing yards as well too, with 180 carries. Averaging almost 5 yards a carry as well too, I believe. But Blake Corum has to be my player on offense for sure. He has looked definitely elite. He's shared carries as well too. Like I said, this program is very team oriented as well too, and they celebrate each other's successes. And we've seen that all year as well too. But Blake Corum on offense, man, 20 touchdowns. That's incredible That's amazing. And we're starting to see him and Edwards maybe get some of those bursts as well too, that maybe Michigan fans were looking forward to at the beginning of the season. Well, it's like those are highlights, guys. We're finally starting to see that kind of break out a little bit, and we really need to see that as well next week as well too. And we really need to see the offensive line really push, and they have all year, but really push next week, obviously. If I had to pick a position group on offense, I'd definitely pick our offensive line. I mean, the pass protection's been pretty solid. And the running game's getting there. You can, like I said, you can see some of those breakaways the last few games, and even Mullins in the Nebraska game too. Like we're seeing pieces of it this year, but hopefully we can really put it together 100% going into next week. As far as defense goes, man, that's also tough. That's also tough. I gotta go Mikey though. Sanistrel, 5 picks so far this year, 2 last week against Maryland, and some clutch interceptions as well too to help us seal that game last week. Or I'm sorry, yesterday. But like, he's been incredible. He's been all over the field. His speed as well too. A couple pick sixes as well. Big one against Michigan State. I mean, he's just an absolute beast. I thought he had one yesterday as well too.
Yeah.
He was down, but oh man, when they were reviewing it off of that first image, I'm like, oh, he's not down because the ref was running with him. That's a touchdown. Got me celebrating about 2 or 3 times, and then they called it back. I'm like, okay, he was down.
Yeah.
But he's absolutely my player on defense. Kenneth Grant, I don't think we talked enough about him this year. Over 300 pounds, and that guy's got some speed. I still want him to go for a 70-yard rushing touchdown. Feed him the ball, please.
Yeah.
We're going to call some trick plays, and we're hiding something in the playbook. Zach Zenter touchdown, eligible wide receiver. And Grant, I want him to run the rock, dude. One play. Give me one play. Some point in time. But Junior Colson as well, too. Was it like 60 tackles, total tackles on the season? That guy flies around, man. I mean, he's an absolute stud. He's an absolute beast. I mean, we kind of predicted him to be the star of our season as well this year. But like I said, both sides of the ball, I mean, special teams are doing it too. It's really hard to even pick these stars, and I'm just doing it as an individual fan. There's other names I could be mentioning here as well too. Who do you got, Derek? Who are your stars so far?
Yeah, so same thing. It's so hard. It's been a weird. We've been weirdly dominant this season because we've been dominant without a lot of big explosive plays. Like there hasn't been the 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown runs. There hasn't been a lot of the deep passes for touchdowns. What we've done is almost Service Academy like of how we've just methodically moved down the field and scored against pretty much everybody. And it's running the ball, it's throwing to the tight ends, it's hitting Roman Wilson over the middle, it's JJ running the
Loveland.
ball.
I mean, we can't forget about Loveland or AJ Barnard too, but for sure, Colston, dude, he's been an absolute beast when we need him.
Yeah, he is a stud, no doubt. And so what it comes to for me, if I'm picking one star of the offense, I gotta go with JJ. He's been one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football. He's had two games that were not up to the standards that he sets for himself. Bowling Green and this past week against Maryland were those 2 games. And he bounced back pretty strong after Bowling Green, so I'm excited to see what he's gonna do this upcoming week against Ohio State. So I got to go with him. He owns this offense. What he can do with his legs, the way that he sees the field, his leadership, his energy out on the field. I think that this offense doesn't move the way it does without him. Corum is great. He's a stud. This offensive line has been great. The receivers have been good. Roman Wilson has had an unbelievable season. and
Especially
the
Zach
tight ends
Center,
are
dude. He
great.
gets props every time
Absolutely.
on TV for every game they're mentioning his name.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
feel
he
like he's the
makes a
best.
hole.
Yeah, he's the best interior offensive lineman in college football, I think. But I think JJ is the star on offense for me. Defensively, I have to agree that Mikey Sainer still not just what he does, but they're timely. Like when we need somebody to make a play, he is there to make a play, and he does it all. He gets pressure on the quarterback. He makes tackles in the run game. His football IQ is phenomenal. He understands situations. He must be a film junkie because he seems like he knows the tendency of what our opponents are going to do, and he is almost always in the right spot at the right time. And a couple other people that stand out. I mean, you pointed out our defense is a no-star defense, a no-star all-star defense, right? But another person that stands out to me because of, I think, almost being a quarterback on the field of the defense is Mike Barrett. Mike Barrett has had a great season.
Absolutely.
He's been all season long. He's been one of Pro Football Focus's highest graded linebackers in all of college football. And I mean, you just saw his toughness last week. He has an AC joint sprain in his shoulder and went back out there and kept playing. Yeah.
Man, so, Mike, don't you think you should be playing hockey, bro? It's crazy. That guy's an absolute warrior. Like, I know when the Viper position got removed with Don Brown's departure, man, that was one guy I was worried about that he was going to leave. I was really concerned about that, so we're glad you stayed, man.
Yeah, definitely, and gave himself a good chance of playing his way into the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's good.
Yeah. So it's really hard to pick who the stars have been this year, but there's been a lot of them.
So Sanistro's got that advantage though too. I mean, he played receiver.
Yep.
So I think he can jump. I mean, we've seen him jump routes and things like that as well too last year and this year. But I mean, it gives him a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah.
And there's no rule against that. So
right. Yeah. That's just
letting everyone know.
Studying film. Yeah. Just that's scouting, studying film.
Yeah.
That's what all of the players do. It's what all of the teams do.
Yeah.
That's how offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators pick plays. They don't just shut their eyes and point to a play on the sheet and say, I hope this one works this time. They actually know what the opponent's tendencies are in certain situations, and they have an identity and they go after it. But I'm excited for this week. I'm excited. It's been a great season, and the who are the stars of the season? You know what? The team. Like, this is a bunch of 18 to 23-year-olds that are going through some of the biggest nonsense that any college football program should ever have to go through, and they found a way to embrace the role of being a villain. They found a way to block out all the noise. And despite everything that's been going on, we've dominated. And we're going into the last week of the year, into the game, undefeated.
It's going to be a crazy atmosphere.
I
think it might just be as 2021 like crazy, but maybe like even crazier.
Yeah, we've got the new video board, so it might even be a little bit louder. Might echo some of that noise back in.
Yep.
So, so cool. We'll certainly talk more football this week, but we represent Michigan for other sports, for all sports. So, couple weeks into basketball season, and I think that disappointing loss this past weekend, but overall, I think that there's been some pleasant surprises with what we've got for Michigan basketball this year. What are your thoughts on Michigan basketball so far?
Yeah, so just getting rid of like the bad stuff right away. I mean, Long Beach State I was a little surprised there after watching her first 3 games, but I mean, when you let a guard, the defense really wasn't there. But when you let a guard shoot like 35 points, I mean, you're gonna have some issues essentially. But the first 3 games, I want to say pleasantly surprised. So Phil, another assistant coach, helping in while Howard's out, but pleasantly surprised. First 3 games, just the transfers that we've brought in and the type of play that we've had with Doug and Terrence Williams as well too. I mean, it's been phenomenal. I'm excited to get Jace Howard back as well too. I mean, because his defense, I mean, is spectacular. I mean, he plays tough D, but pleasantly surprised. The first 3 games, we looked really good, shooting lights out. And just one of those games, I think, that got over our heads and didn't play much defense and thought we could outscore them, which we've had a few leads. I said I was going to get away from that game, but I can't let it go because you and I were talking about it back and forth that night too. But we had like over like 2 10-point leads twice, and we blew it. But it is what it is. This team, I think they still have more gelling to do yet, but the first 3 games we're looking good. Seton Hall transfer, Tennessee transfer, Bama transfer, fitting in well with McDaniels as well. And I mean, Doug, I mean, his sophomore year, he has looked incredible at that point guard position. Incredible. Yeah. And I'm not surprised by that, but he has looked very, very well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the offense has been fun to watch. Doug McDaniels has been doing a great job watching or running the offense. Keep in mind that we're going to have more depth coming in there once Jalen Llewellyn comes back. So once he returns from injury, we're going to have an experienced point guard that will be able to provide a little bit of depth there. Because right now we go to a true freshman with George Washington, the third. Which is probably
shots are there. They just
But that's the best. That's my favorite name in college basketball.
Yes.
Olivier Kamoa. The more we watch him, the easier it is to say his last name. He's been great. And Amari Burnett's been great. This team, the offense just seems to click a little bit better this year, which is weird because we lost one of the best big men in college basketball and 2 NBA draft picks, and our offense seems to be better and smoother without them so far. Now, it might be a little too early. The loss on Friday was a nice little reality check of, not to get too excited too early. Because we don't really know.
Every year in college basketball just gets crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
Like I can barely fill out a bracket anymore. It used to be so good, and I don't care how much. You're better off just not watching college basketball at all and filling out like one bracket, and you're going to do better than me.
Yeah.
It's insane. But we can't forget about Reed Jr. as well too. I mean, I think that guy has definitely made an improvement in his game, his development. He's a lot more physical as well too, but he's looking good.
Yeah, I'm excited they certainly look like they play NBA style defense so far this year, which is not playing defense. But
like the last game, but like I don't know, like
St. John's actually
there was a couple wide open shooters, but yeah, the first 3 games they were playing pretty physical defense, but I don't know what happened the last game.
And to be truthful, I don't have Big Ten Plus, so I was following along on my phone.
We could write it off for the LLC. I'm just not that invested to it yet, but Victor's Nation, we're going to start covering. In the future, we're going to give out some shout outs to Michigan women's athletics as well too, and break down some of those games coming up. But now its focus is football.
Yeah, let's get through this. Let's go win another Big Ten championship in football. On another note, Michigan hockey split this weekend with Penn State, so I think currently ranked 12, I think, Michigan hockey.
Yeah, Wisconsin hockey like literally came out of. I don't think anyone projected them to be good, but within 2 weekends they swept Minnesota and they swept Michigan a few weeks back. So it's going to be interesting, but yeah, we're going to be covering that as well too.
Yeah, for sure. But stay tuned. This week, as you know, every week we do a crossover pod with another podcast from Big Banter. So we did one with the OHIO pod earlier this year before the season started, and we were able to come out of that podcast in friendly terms with those guys. So it's probably going to be a must-watch podcast this week when we cross over with them. So be sure to tune in, and we'll see how friendly the terms are coming out of this one.
Yeah, I think I might have made that a little hostile, but it is what it is. You're welcome. Someone had to start it, right? Someone had to do it. So jumped in and take credit.
Good. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, or X. And be sure to pay attention to Big Banter Sports. But one more game here in football season. Be loud about Michigan. Be loud about everything that you feel like is going on. Go Blue.
Blue.